Hello and welcome to Stitches and Slapdashery, Slowvember, day 17. Wow, this month is flying by. So a mug rug with an autumn vibe, room for a mug and a cookie. I have missed using my sewing machine the last few weeks. I've been so busy with all sorts of other crafts that I've barely sewn a thing on the machine, so this will be fun. I've made a couple of these before. They're basically just like a mini quilt, about probably 8 by 7 inches ish. Just room enough to put a hot mug on and maybe a cookie or two on the side. So let's grab a notebook and make some plans. Before I start messing around with notebooks and fabrics and things, let me just show you this. Yep, it's supposed to be a Christmas tree. Yeah, I was going to make something that looked like a Christmas tree to go with the scroll to my friend as a gift, but I'm not happy with this. Last night, after I had done everything else, I switched the camera on and I made this, but I'm not even going to show you the footage because it's not something I'm particularly proud of. It was wrapped around a thread spool that was a perfect cone shape for a tree, or so I thought. And I wrapped it with batting and fabric and hot glued the cord and the bells and the sequins on and the trim. And yeah, I'm afraid that one's going in the not good enough to gift bucket. I'll probably just put it on my windowsill here in my sewing room, and that's where it will live. All right, now that I've given you guys a laugh, let's think about this. Mug rug. Normally they're patchwork, and I'm just looking right now at the bags of scraps that I cut neatly into squares a long time ago. I have a bag of 2-inch squares, a bag of 3-inch squares, a bag of 4-inch squares, 5-inch squares, and 6-inch squares. So at one point I went through my scrap bag and tried to cut a neat square out of each piece of fabric, the biggest I could fit within the size of the scrap. Obviously the 2-inch bag is the fullest, but what I would like to do is to have this have an autumn theme, and a lot of these fabrics are not going to be particularly autumn themed. It's quite the mixture in there. So I think for speed, because I don't have a lot of time this afternoon. This morning we went out for a very lovely walk, and then we had a cup of tea, and then we had a couple of places to stop off at. We finished spending a gift certificate at a bakery to get some sourdough bread, and by the time we came home and I had eaten some bread and made myself a cup of tea, it's getting on 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I have to go to a baby shower tonight. So yes, that baby shower, the one that I made the gift for ages and ages ago, that one. Finally get that gift out of my house. Anyway, I'm not seeing much in the way of fall colorways here. So I don't want to be fiddling around with lots of teeny tiny pieces, ideally. I would like it to be fairly quick and easy. That one might work. So many fun fabrics that I've had sitting around in my craft room for far too long. There's a Halloween one. We don't want a Halloween one. I do want to use some of this robin fabric. I used a lot of this last year when I was making things for the market. the Farmers and Crafters Market. I really like that one. That one doesn't really go with it, but this thing's got to have two sides, so maybe. Well, I didn't get much out of that bag. I think the size of this thing might be dictated by what squares I find. That I love. That crab fabric, so beautiful. Part of an ocean-themed group of fabrics from Fabricland a long time ago. This is fun. This cut sew repeat. I've used that for some linings of bags before, and that is a really handy piece of fabric to have because it's great for a lot of things. It was very popular. The bolts sold out so fast at Fabricland. In fact, I bought some knowing it was going out really fast, and then a customer came in the following week and was asking after it, and I said, I'm sorry, I know that one's sold out because I bought some of it myself. Yeah, there's not a lot here that's full themed, is there? This is fun. Don't give a frappe. You know, maybe if it's a mug rug, these ones would actually be rather appropriate. We've got happily ever after coffee. Don't give a frappe. Coffee time. Oh, there's two coffee time ones. There's some orange in there, so if I could get some other orange fabrics and maybe some brown, and then use this, maybe this one. Well, I think I'm going to have to start looking for some coordinates in the scrap bag for these because I'm definitely drawn to using these. So if I want to use these, they're 5-inch squares. If I put them both on the front of my mug rug, that doesn't leave a lot of room for other fabrics. So maybe I could make it reversible by putting one on each side and then surrounding them with strips and build it up like a log cabin. So say I've got my mug rug here. I could have my 5-inch square like this, and then I could build it up like so. Oh, hang on a minute. That would go like that. That's right, and then there, and then build it up sideways if I need to make more of a rectangle. So I'll cut myself a piece of batting. Let's see what would be a good size. Maybe what I'll do is cut myself a piece of batting that's, grab a ruler. Let's see, if I put my 5-inch square there, then I can build up around to a 9-inch width and a 7-inch depth. Yeah, I think that would work. And maybe just use thin strips. And when it gets to be the 7-inch depth and I need to build out, I can then build out to the side to make it more of a rectangle. So maybe I'll cut it 10 by 8. Yeah, I think I'm going to cut it 10 by 8 because that will allow for me to fill it to the edges, and then I'll have plenty for seam allowance. 10 by 8 cut. So that's 25 centimeters by 20 centimeters. Good news is I found some of this in the stash, and I think this is the insole fleece, or it might be the Insel Bright, I'm not sure, but it's got a battingy type side and a shiny heat reflecting type side. So if I build up 2 panels, I might have to do it that way. I'm just thinking if that's a reflective side, then I'll probably do it this way. So I can make 2 rectangles, and then when they're made up, I can put them back to back and then bind around the edge, and I'll have a really thick heat-proof mat for putting hot mugs on. I've set up my machine with taupe thread. I think I might have said cream before. Taupe thread. I put my walking foot on and a brand new Universal 70 needle. And I've got myself a cutting surface. I moved my ancient cutting mat here rather than my good one, because the good one is massive. It wouldn't fit on the table. So that I can cut and iron and sew all right here without moving. I'm not going to measure anything. I'm just going to eyeball having that just to the side. Let's hope you can see that properly. Yeah, I think you can. I've got this scrap here, which is just the right length. So I'm going to slice a piece off that. In fact, I might as well slice it into 3 because I'm probably going to use the same fabric on the other side. So let's just get those ready. And I'm using the stitch and flip method. So all I'm going to do, I have to be careful, I've got a little slit in my fabric there, so I have to make sure I don't miss that when I'm sewing. I'm going to just lay the fabric, sew it, flip it. Got my, let me just test something out. I'm going to be ironing right onto here, and I want to be sure that this stuff doesn't freak out when it gets hot. That's interesting. So it went really dull and weird when I ironed it. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this the other way over, because if I'm pressing on here and it does that, that's probably damaging it. I'm glad I thought of that before I went nuts. Okay. So where will I start? Doesn't really matter, but maybe I'll start here. I'm going to lay that down and I'm going to sew a seam here. I'll have to make it big enough to not catch that slit in the fabric. Pro tip, guys, thread your needle before you start trying to sew. That was funny. There we are. I did a quick press. I'm not going to leave the iron on here for too long, just in case it doesn't like it. Now I'm going to turn it. I'm going to put a strip along here. Expect some slapdash cutting. I don't have a problem if some of these strips are wonky. In fact, I think that adds a bit of character, so I'm not going to worry about them being perfectly straight. I'm just going to iron that over. Now I'm going to turn it that way. I found this fabric in the stash just before. I rather like this too. Just have to hope it's long enough. As you work around the square, of course, things get longer. The piece of fabric you need is longer and longer. So that's why if you've got strips in the stash, you have to use the shortest ones earliest on. Now I'm turning it, and I'm putting my next strip here. I'd like to use this, but I don't want to have the stripes going lengthwise, so we're going to go cutting it so that they're short and across the strip. My seam allowance is coming in about 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch, depending on my mood. So what's my next one? I think my next one is going to be plain brown. I do prefer prints, but kind of limited here. So what's handy is you can use this method and just trim the strip after, or just hold it there and then trim it like this if it's a longer strip. Like that. It's a pretty random assortment of fabrics, I have to admit. But I sometimes find that the more fabrics you put into something, the better everything looks. Because if there's something that doesn't go, it's not always as obvious. And the whole point of this is to use up the scraps. We have a selvage. Yeah, I'm a bit picky about not putting selvages into things. Now we're back to this edge. You're basically just going around and round in a circle until you've filled the area. I was using my bigger cutting mat and a larger space. I'd be using a bigger ruler. I know I'm struggling away with a small one, but seeing as I'm not trying to be accurate, it's not really a big deal to me. Okay, let's put the orange on here. And then you can also trim afterwards instead of before if you want to. Perfect. Now I've got that edge covered now, so I don't have to add any more to that side. I've got this one here, which is rather fun. And yeah, it's not exactly fallish, is it? But I'm thinking of putting it here because it's got the right colours in it. It's got the blue and the orange and everything. So we're running with it. And I need a piece that's about 7 inches. This iron I'm loving. Not sponsored. And it took me years to get around to buying one of those little ones because I thought it was just an added luxury that I didn't need. But then it got to the point where I realized that a lighter iron that can sit right next to you at the sewing machine is a boon that I didn't want to do without any longer. All right, let's see. I need to put something down here, and I don't want to use that fabric or that fabric because I don't want the same ones touching. Seeing as I've got lots of this one, I think I'm going to go with this guy again. It's getting dark out there already. I think it's only about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You can see how quick this is to build up. What have I got next? I really need more fabrics. I don't really mean I need to buy more fabric. I just need to have more variety in this mug rug. But the nice thing about using prints like this is that because it has so many different colours through it, if you put a little strip of it in here, it doesn't look necessarily like the same fabric anyway. So I should just stop whining, shouldn't I? Okay, hang on. I just did that one, didn't I? I need to do this one. I already have one on that. Okay, I'm saving that for the next thing. But here, I want to put something else. All right, so I don't have to go to here or to here because those are full. So now I just have to build up here. And I'm going to use this one. I just love the colours in this fabric. So pretty. I'm going to put another piece of this on. See, I'm thinking that one's a bit light now. But in order that it maybe doesn't look quite so out of place, I'm going to include another strip of it up here and make it look more intentional. You tell yourself that, Nicola. So I have a couple of colour theories. One of them is the more colours you use, the less likely things are to clash. And the other one is, if you're not sure about something, make sure you repeat it in another part of the project so it looks intentional. Sometimes when I'm cutting strips for something like this, I deliberately make them angled so they look more interesting, but I've kept these things pretty straight. I'm going to do a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance on here, I think, so that there is less of the flower fabric and more of the orange. Oh, the joy of using a brand new needle. It's lovely and sharp. Well, let me just trim the edges of this so that we can see it looking all neat and tidy. Sometimes sewing strips to batting can pull everything out of shape, so I will make sure it will get squared up and that both pieces match perfectly before I try and put them back to back and bind around them. So there's number one. First block is done. So I'm going to make a second one off camera and then I'll show you them when they're ready to go to the next stage. It's another lovely mild day. Lake is calm. And the rain is holding off. They promised us some rain, but it hasn't happened yet. Lovely. Having our walk before we go for our cup of tea today. And we're hoping to find the sourdough bread bakery open later as well. We can have fresh bread with our soup tonight. My two rectangles are ready. This one's looking a little puffy. Not ideal. I could probably have avoided that by doing a bit of spray basting on it. Anyway, that one was the first one I made, which you've already seen, and this is the second one. And because this strip here it just fell a little short of the edge, I've trimmed them down, so I've lost 1/4 of an inch on each side. But I didn't want to trim any more off than that because they're actually a good size. So they're 9 3/4 inches by 7 3/4 now, I think. Yeah. I needed a width of fabric for my binding. So what I do when I calculate binding for quilts is I usually measure the whole circumference. I add a couple of inches on for each mitered corner. That's pretty generous. And then I have to allow for some overlap at the beginning and end. So I've cut this one. This is the only one I could find that had enough on it without piecing. So this is what it's going to be. I'm hoping this will be enough. If not, I can cut another piece off it and add it on in a pinch. So I just need to press this. This is 2.5 inches wide. I'm going to fold it in half and press it in half. And I can't do that with my left hand pressing and my right hand holding, so I'm going to have to switch hands. So it's getting to be about 5 o'clock right now. So what I'm going to have to do is put this aside, go and have some soup with my nice sourdough bread that we bought today, and go out to the baby shower. So hopefully it won't go on too late. I shall have to make concerted effort to not stay out too late. Maybe stay no more than 2 hours and get back to finishing this later on. I mean, there's nothing that says I have to finish this today, but I'd like to. So here we go. So what I will do is I will probably start at a bottom edge. I'll put these together, obviously. It's going to be pretty thick. Oh yeah. Here's another little laugh you can have. I've turned this over to trim it, and I realized I had accidentally sewn in a scrap of fabric. So I trimmed it back as far as possible. Oh look, and there's another little bit of fluff that got into the stitching. All right, so this is what I'm going to do. Yeah, it's quite thick, so this is going to be interesting, isn't it? I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to... Oh, this is really wet. It must have come out of my iron. I'm going to sew it to one side and then flip it over. And then I think I'm going to hand stitch it because I want it to look nice both sides. And when I machine sew the second seam on a binding, I always make a mess of it. So in theory, it should go around with the mitered corners. Let's just double check right now. You do lose a bit on the corners. Oh, I should have plenty. So I will come back and finish that off later on this evening. The binding is sewn on. I had to abandon it to go to the baby shower. I had a hell of a time getting this little seam sewn because I didn't leave myself a lot of room to move in there. But it got done, thankfully. And now I can bring it to the other side. And clip it over. There's been many, many times when I have tried to rush this second stage of the binding, and I've pulled it over to the back, and I've either sewn from this side or I've sewn in the ditch here in the hope I would catch the binding on the other side, and especially in the corners, I've missed it completely, and then just had to faff about to get it redone and redone and redone again. So I'm just doing it by hand. It's not worth the hassle to do it by machine, I find, especially on something this small. I think hand sewing this part of the binding will be a nice relaxing thing. The baby shower was fun, but it was very noisy indeed. And my brain is probably very overstimulated right now. So I think the best thing I can possibly do for my poor brain and my head, which is absolutely ringing, is to do a nice little bit of hand sewing to end my day before I go to bed. I do have a shift tomorrow, but it's not till 11. I think it's 11 to 5, something like that. So that means I don't have to get up really early tomorrow morning. So if I am a little late to bed tonight, it won't be the end of the world. I'm glad to say that the mum-to-be seemed to love her present, which was the crochet blanket and the burp cloth and the 2 washcloths, which I made. She got a lot of gifts from the staff. She had little onesies and scratch mitts, and she got 2 diaper genies, which are those things which didn't exist when I had my kids. Or if they did, I never had one. They just store the dirty diapers until you take them out. One of the staff had made her one of those wedding cake type things. It's called a diaper cake, but it looks like a wedding cake, and you bundle and stack the diapers to make it look like layers of a cake. And they got pizza in. We just played the one game. It was just everyone had to cut a piece of ribbon of the circumference that they guessed her tummy to be. I didn't win. Oh, that's messy. That is too messy. I know I'm Mrs. Slapdash, but that's not good enough. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the camera, and I'm going to do this with my glasses off so I can look at it right up close, much closer than I would if I was filming. And I'll show you when it's finished. And here it is in all its glory. All finished. Side 1. Side 2. There's a reason I didn't show you how I did the binding. I did it in my usual slapdash way. So if you want to know how to do binding, go to see Karen at Just Get It Done Quilts. She shows you how to do it properly. My joiners are here. It's a little bulky. But this is going to be lovely and squishy and smooshy and heat protecting for my coffee table for when I have my cups of tea. Love it. And that's that for today. I didn't think I was going to finish that mug rug today. I thought with having to go out this evening, I thought it was going to be a bit too much of a challenge, but I'm glad I did. The uploading and editing and publishing might take a little while, but I'll make myself a cup of herbal tea and I will get it done. Yeah, it's nice and squishy, that, with the 2 layers of the insole fleece in there. I think that's going to be really good. So I will definitely be putting that on my coffee table to enjoy and use. Thanks for coming along for the ride. I'll see you again tomorrow with something else.